before the bombs fell from the sky, before the streets burned red with violence, before armed white mobs turned an American city into a war zone, there was Greenwood, a thriving black community in Tulsa, Oklahoma, a place so wealthy, so successful, so independent that people across America began calling it Black Wall Street. It was a world built by black excellence, black doctors, black lawyers, black bankers, black business owners, black teachers, black entrepreneurs, men and women who rose from the ashes of slavery and built one of the most prosperous black communities in American history. But in a nation poisoned by racism, black success itself became dangerous. In 1921, America committed one of the darkest racial atrocities in its history, an event so horrific that many survivors later described it as the Black Holocaust. This is the story of Black Wall Street, the city they built, the dreams they created, and the massacre America tried to erase.
The story begins after the Civil War. Slavery had officially ended, but freedom in America remained fragile for black people. Across the South, segregation tightened like chains reborn in another form. Black Americans faced violence everywhere. Lynchings, discrimination, economic exclusion, white supremacist terror. Yet despite these obstacles, black communities fought to build something powerful: independence. Land ownership became a symbol of survival. Business ownership became resistance. Education became revolution. And in Oklahoma, opportunity appeared. After the land runs of the late 19th century, many black families moved west searching for a fresh start. Some settled in Tulsa, and there, in a district called Greenwood, something extraordinary began to rise. Greenwood was not built by luck. It was built by determination. Black families opened businesses with almost nothing. Barbershops, restaurants, hotels, newspapers, grocery stores, movie theaters, tailor shops, banks. Every dollar circulated through the community. Black doctors treated black patients. Black teachers educated black children. Black entrepreneurs reinvested in black success. Soon, Greenwood became one of the wealthiest black communities in the United States. Elegant homes lined the streets. Luxury cars rolled through neighborhoods. Music filled the air at night. The district pulsed with ambition and pride. People called it Black Wall Street because it represented black economic power on a scale America had rarely seen. And that success terrified racists because Greenwood destroyed the lie of black inferiority. It proved that when given opportunity, black Americans could build wealth, stability, and thriving institutions despite generations of oppression. To white supremacists, that reality was dangerous, and tensions slowly grew beneath the surface. Tulsa in the early 20th century was deeply segregated. White and black communities lived in separate worlds, and while Greenwood prospered, resentment spread among many white residents. Some newspapers fueled hatred openly. Racist groups expanded in power. The Ku Klux Klan grew across America. The success of Black Wall Street became a target. White racists viewed black prosperity not as inspiration, but as a threat. Every successful black businessman challenged white supremacy. Every elegant black home contradicted racist stereotypes. Every black millionaire became proof that the racist system itself was built on lies. And then came the spark, a moment that would ignite catastrophe. On May 31st, 1921, a young black man, Derek Rowland, entered an elevator operated by a young white woman, his Sarah Page. Something happened inside that elevator. Perhaps Rowland tripped. Perhaps he accidentally grabbed her arm. Perhaps it was misunderstanding. No one truly knows. But soon rumors exploded across Tulsa. White newspapers printed inflammatory stories suggesting assault. The city became a powder keg. A white mob gathered outside the courthouse demanding Rowland be lynched. Inside Greenwood, Black veterans of World War I remembered something terrifying. Across America, black men accused, often falsely, were frequently murdered by mobs without trial. So armed black citizens marched to the courthouse to protect Roland from lynching. And in that tense confrontation, a shot rang out. Then chaos erupted. What followed was not simply a riot, it was organized racial terror. White mobs flooded into Greenwood armed with rifles, pistols, and gasoline. Some were deputized by local authorities, others came willingly for destruction. They looted homes, burned businesses, shot black residents in the streets. Eyewitnesses described bodies lying everywhere. Entire city blocks erupted into flames. And then came something even more horrifying. Airplanes appeared above Greenwood. Witnesses reported armed white men firing from the sky and dropping incendiary devices onto black neighborhoods. An American community was being attacked from the ground and the air. Smoke swallowed the district. Families fled through burning streets carrying children in their arms. Doctors, teachers, veterans, business owners, people who had spent years building prosperity, watched everything disappear overnight. The wealth of Black Wall Street burned into ashes. The violence lasted into the next day. Thousands of black residents were arrested and placed into detention centers, while white mobs continued destruction. Homes vanished beneath flames. Churches collapsed. Schools were destroyed. Businesses reduced to rubble. More than 30 city blocks were devastated. Hundreds may have died. Some historians believe the true death toll was far higher than official reports admitted. Mass graves became part of whispered memory. Survivors carried trauma for the rest of their lives. Children who escaped the massacre later remembered the screams, the smoke, the gunfire, the smell of burning homes, and perhaps most horrifying of all, no one was punished. No justice came. The city blamed the victims. Insurance companies refused many claims. Officials covered up evidence. History books ignored the massacre for generations. It became one of the greatest silences in American history. After the massacre, survivors tried to rebuild. Some returned to Greenwood and reconstructed businesses despite unimaginable loss. But the psychological wound never healed. Many survivors rarely spoke publicly about what happened. Fear lingered for decades. Meanwhile, America moved forward pretending the massacre never occurred. Schools did not teach it. Movies ignored it. Politicians avoided it. Entire generations grew up unaware that one of the worst acts of racial violence in American history had occurred on American soil. It was as though the nation itself wanted the memory buried beneath ashes. But truth has a way of surviving. And eventually, descendants, historians, journalists, and researchers began uncovering the story again. The silence started to break. Greenwood represented more than wealth. It represented possibility. A vision of black self-determination. The people of Black Wall Street had created schools, businesses, financial systems, and community institutions powerful enough to sustain economic independence. And that frightened those invested in racial hierarchy. The destruction of Greenwood was not random chaos. It was the violent crushing of black prosperity. A warning sent through terror, a message that black success could be destroyed if it became too successful. That is why many people describe the massacre as a black holocaust, because it was systematic racial destruction fueled by hatred, and because its trauma echoed across generations. Wealth lost, homes destroyed, lives stolen, history buried. The damage reached far beyond one night. Despite everything, some survivors rebuilt. Brick by brick, store by store, dream by dream. Their resilience became extraordinary. Imagine losing everything overnight, your home, your business, your family members, and still finding strength to continue. That was Greenwood. Even after terror, the spirit of Black Wall Street refused to die completely. And that resilience remains one of the most powerful parts of the story. Because oppression seeks not only destruction, but hopelessness. And the people of Greenwood refused to surrender their humanity entirely. Today, The Tulsa Race Massacre is finally receiving recognition long denied. Memorials stand where ashes once covered the streets. Researchers continue investigating mass graves. Descendants continue demanding justice and truth. But the story of Black Wall Street remains larger than tragedy alone. It is also a story of Black brilliance, Black ambition, Black entrepreneurship, Black resilience. Before it was destroyed, Greenwood proved what Black communities could build even under segregation and oppression. And perhaps that is why the story remains so powerful, because it forces America to confront the truths at once: the greatness Black Americans created, and the violence used to destroy it. Black Wall Street was not merely a neighborhood, it was a dream, a vision of economic freedom rising from the ashes of slavery. And although flames consumed its buildings, the idea survived, because dreams powerful enough to change history cannot be burned away completely. The streets of Greenwood still whisper their story. Of businessmen and musicians, of teachers and doctors, of families who built prosperity against impossible odds, and of a community that became so successful. America chose destruction over equality. That is the story of Black Wall Street, the Black Holocaust America tried to forget, the city built by Black excellence and burned by racial hatred.